Adventure Time is a children's cartoon full of adult life lessons which you might have missed while you were young. There's so many great and detailed themes like heartbreak, grief, personal growth, but there's also this very emotional topic of identity struggles throughout the series. We see this in the greatest hero of Ooh, Billy, struggling with what it means to be a hero. We see it through Finn becoming obsessed with every girl he meets, but we also see this through Fern in a very tragic way. I've always seen Fern's story as the painful embodiment of growth through rejection, crisis, and transformation. It taught me that becoming yourself isn't always about knowing who you are, but surviving and discovering who you were meant to be. And if you follow his story to the end, you might just find a piece of yourself in him too. Fern's path doesn't start by being born with a purpose. He was born by accident, something that should have never happened. Adventure Time's main hero, Finn, once had a sword made from a version of himself, literally. It first appeared in Breezy, where Finn awakens to Breezy's final song. However, instead of seeing Breezy in her queen form, he has a vision of Princess Bubblegum holding some weird sword we hadn't seen before. Now later in the episode Is That You, after a multiverse mishap, a copy of Finn's consciousness got trapped inside a blade. That blade became known as the Finn Sword, the same one Princess Bubblegum was holding. It talked like him, thought like him. It was him, in a way, a piece of his soul made of steel. And that sword is a piece of himself that Finn would lose, like totally by accident.
Yep! It's the boy. I'm a boy. Finn's sword!
Get a new sword.
Luckily, Finn also acquired a different weapon, a cursed magical plant called the Grass Sword.
Here you go. A grass sword. It's a bargain.
It was beautiful, deadly, and a little too perfect. It cuts a tag effortlessly in the shape of Finn's face, foreshadowing what the sword would become later.
Something is terribly wrong with that awful sword.
It was alive, and it wanted something, so it started wrapping itself around Finn's arm.
Dude.
Yeah.
And it wasn't coming off. Finn and Jake tried to find the grassy wizard again to lift the curse from the sword,
Lift the curse.
but he wasn't really digging it.
Never! You have no power over me, young fool! The grass sword will be part of you for all eternity!
But after accepting that the sword would be a part of Finn, it retracted and became something Finn could control.
Now that you've accepted it, you can control it.
Eventually, Finn would lose that arm, as I've previously covered in a different video. Not to bore you with details, but Finn later regrows his arm with a small thorn in his hand, a remnant of the grass sword that would only activate when Finn is in a life-threatening crisis. And such a crisis was just about to happen 2 seasons later. In the episode I Am Sword, the one where we saw Finn throwing his Finn sword away, Finn has a nightmare of being a girl thief and robbing a man in the woods. When he wakes up screaming, he runs downstairs to find Jake and tell him about his dream. Jake tells him that it was probably just a guilt dream. But the dreams persist, and Finn eventually realizes that the sword is in trouble. It's trying to reach him. So the duo travels to the Spiky Village, where the bandit princess is still using the sword for all the wrong reasons.
OMG, you ruined my life, bandit princess.
Mine too. You've trashed my hero streak.
Once they found her, they fight. And in the chaos, the grass sword activates, sprouting from Finn's palm to save his life, but accidentally stabs the crystal heart of the Finn sword and shatters it. But it isn't until the episode Reboot that the fusion truly begins. The grass sword separates from Finn's body again, just like it did in the Citadel. But this time, it finds something else to cling to, something fractured, something vulnerable. The broken remains of the Finn sword. Inside that blade, the tiny version of Finn, still alive, still trapped, met the grass demon, the twisted parasite that powered the grass sword. And together, they fused. Not with some magic, not with love, but with confusion, possession, and a deep need to escape. What emerged wasn't just a new sword, it was someone. a bundle of cursed grass twitching with electricity, shaping itself into a boy. He stands up slowly, unsure of what he is, but absolutely certain of who.
Also, why are you dressed like me? Get a life, man.
What?
He has the voice, the memories, the instincts.
What are you on about? Ah!
But something's off. It's like watching a memory walk around wearing someone else's skin. This is how Fern is born. Not from parents, not from purpose, but from a broken version of someone else, cursed and left behind. And from the very beginning, all he wants is to be seen. Not as a copy, not as a monster, just as a real person. He's a textbook case of identity fragmentation. He wakes up with memories that aren't his, emotions he's never earned, and instincts that were shaped by someone else's pain. He's living in a body made from violence, animated by trauma, and wrapped in vines that seem to protect him, but mostly just keep him bound. And that's the trap, because the vines aren't just his body, they're a symbol of something deeper. Expectations, inherited roles, someone else's story tightening around you like roots. And maybe you felt that too, like you were following a script that was handed to you, playing a part that never really fit. You try to say the right things, act the way you're supposed to, but deep down, it never feels natural. It's not that you don't belong, it's that no one ever asked who you really are. And that's the quiet truth Fern teaches us early on, that becoming yourself isn't just about knowing who you are, it's about untangling who you were told to be.
Why don't you set him straight and tell him who the real Finn is?
That one?
What?
Yeah, I don't know what you are.
But little did we know, Fern, or Grass Finn as he's still called at this point, was about to show us that he was more Finn than Finn would ever be. If you draw a parallel, you can see some common ground. Fern is Finn from the early seasons, the young, reckless boy who charges into battle with no plan, only fists and bravado. Except, Finn grew up. Fern didn't. Even though he has the same memories, he never lived through them. He remembers losing friends, but not what it felt like. He remembers hugging Jake, but not why it mattered. He remembers growing up, but never actually did. He looks real, but he's hollow in all the places Finn filled with love and pain. And that gap, the gap between memory and maturity, is where Fern begins to unravel. When Fern goes back to the tree fort, it's not as a villain, it's as someone going home. He opens the door and walks inside. But the first person he meets isn't Jake, it's Bimo, a tiny robot and one of Finn's oldest friends. And Bimo is terrified, so he hides. Fern tries to feel out the space. He sniffs the air, touches some objects. He reaches for nostalgia, for belonging. That's when Finn finds the scrapbook. It's filled with drawings, photos, and mementos, pieces of a life he remembers living. He flips through page after page, expecting something to click.
That was when Bimo lost control of the tank.
But instead of clarity, he finds contradiction. The life he remembers already belongs to someone else. Someone still alive. Someone everyone else seems to prefer. Someone with skin made out of flesh, not out of grass. And that realization that he's just the second version of someone better hurts more than anything. So he starts tearing the tree fort apart. Not out of malice, but confusion, frustration, grief. When the real Finn and Jake come home, they find their fort in ruins. Jake's furious, Bimo's scared, and Fern is crumbling. But Finn doesn't attack him. He sees the sadness in Fern's eyes, and he does something small but meaningful. He offers Fern a Finn cake, a silly little dessert that's always been for Finn only. But in that moment, it's more than just a sugary treat. It's an invitation. It's a way of saying, you don't need to be me to belong here. And for the first time since waking up, Fern smiles.
Maybe I'm not who I am.
Just a little. But it's real. That night, they all sleep at the treehouse. Finn, Jake, and Bimo inside, with Fern on the roof. Not quite family, not quite stranger. something in between, something growing. But growth is rarely peaceful, and Fern's roots are tangled. The next day, Finn leaves Jake to spend time alone with Fern, to treat him like a brother, like a second chance. Jake tries. He cooks for Fern, he plays music with him, he even suggests they smash monsters together. But Fern's body doesn't work like Finn's. He can't eat, he can't breathe, so he can't even play the flute. He has all of Finn's memories, but none of the humanity. And that's when the loneliness sets in. Not because he's isolated, but because no one sees him as real, not even the world around him. When Fern and Jake go find the grassy wizard, the one who originally created the grass sword, Fern finally asks the question that's been eating away at him.
Why did you make me? Am I bad? Am I part of a conspiracy?
And the answer?
I just thought it would be cool. Grass blade. It's a sort of pun.
There's no prophecy, no plan, not even an accident, just a joke, just a weapon. Fern was never meant to be anything at all, but Fern refuses to believe that. It can't be. Not really. He knocks the wizard out cold, not to kill him, but to stop the hurt, to reject the idea that he was never meant to be. And when Finn returns, he praises Fern's choice, tells him he did good, that he was brave. Fern looks at him, this boy whose life he remembers, whose face he shares, and decides, finally, to be someone new.
Good job, Grass-me.
But I'm not you. It's clear that I'm someone else.
From that moment, he also calls himself Fern, and then steals a motorcycle and drives off into the dark. Fern's life started by showing that even if you've just been told you were never meant to exist, you still get to decide who you'll become. And that's only the beginning for Fern. He may have picked a name, but that doesn't mean he found peace or identity yet. In fact, naming himself Fern the Human only made the silence louder. Because saying, "I am someone," doesn't change how the world looks at you. And no matter where Fern goes, he still sees it in their eyes. Doubt, distance, fear. Now, after Finn was about to leave on his journey to the islands, he wanted Fern to fill in for him.
I might be gone for a while on this trip, see? And I need someone to, cover for me, here anew.
And he tried. He tried to slay monsters, save people, do good. But it never feels right. Everything he does just wasn't enough. It feels like a performance.
The dude who dinks it up. Just like I dinked it up when you left, dude. I was supposed to protect it. Instead, it went all crazy. I didn't even help.
And deep down, he knows he's still living in someone else's shadow. In Whispers, we start to see the cracks take over. Fern becomes more withdrawn, more erratic.
Don't trust me to guard anything. I'm a total scrub-up.
He starts watching Finn from a distance, studying him. Not as a brother, but as a rival. Because no matter what Fern does, Finn keeps being chosen. Chosen to lead, to protect, to be remembered. And what hurts most? Fern remembers all the same things. He feels them in his roots. But no one treats him like they're his. Eventually, Fern finds something dangerous. He can disguise himself. He learns how to cloak his grass body and appear identical to Finn. And that's when the idea forms.
It doesn't matter how hard I try. I'll always just be in the shadow of the real Finn. Unless I could become the only Finn.
If he can't live as Fern, then maybe he'll just replace Finn. By the time we reach 3 buckets, Fern's jealousy has festered into something harder. He doesn't just want to be seen, he wants the world to forget Finn ever existed. He lures Finn into a trap, locks him behind a stone door, and declares,
It's been your home long enough. It's Fern's turn. I think I'm gonna be a really great Finn.
It's saddening. Not because Fern is cruel per se, but because he truly believes that this is the only way forward. When the world tells you you're not enough, eventually you start to believe it. And if you believe it long enough, you'll do anything to change it. It doesn't last long though. Finn escapes, the two fight. It's fast, clumsy, desperate. Not two heroes, two brothers, two scared kids trying to prove they deserve to exist. And then, by accident, just one misinterpreted voice command, and Finn cuts Fern to pieces. There's no triumph in his face, no relief, just horror. Because Fern may have gone too far, but he was never a monster. He was just lost. And here we truly get to see how far Finn has come. Like I mentioned earlier, Finn used to be that kid running around willing to kill everything he's deemed as evil. But now there's more to it. There's the complete moral question attached to what makes someone evil. Fern tried to get rid of Finn, and yet Finn realizes it's not completely his fault. And as Fern lies in a heap of shredded vines and scattered memory, something inside him still clings to life, a small twitching eye, still moving. Fern isn't gone. Not yet. But what grows from here won't be the same. Fern's story could have ended in that pile of broken vines. It might have been a tragedy, short, confusing, unfinished. But instead, it becomes something worse. In the episode 17, Fern returns, not as himself, but as something new. He crashes Finn's birthday party in full armor, silent, powerful, unfamiliar. He doesn't announce who he is, he just challenges Finn. And when Finn defeats him in an arm wrestling match, the helmet finally comes off. It's Fern, but not really. His body has been restored, refined, sharpened into a weapon. And the one responsible? Princess Bubblegum's uncle, Uncle Gumbald. The same Gumbald who is quietly assembling an army, preparing for war. And Fern? He's just another soldier now, a pawn with a name. He's no longer asking questions. He's not searching for his identity. He's doing what he's told, because if the world won't love him as Fern, it might at least fear him as the Green Knight. That's the most heartbreaking part of Fern's journey. Not when he dies, but when he stops trying to live. In Gumbaldia, Fern stands silently at Gumbald's side. Gone are the moments of introspection, the attempts to connect, the flickers of humanity. His movements are robotic. His speech is clipped. He's been given a role as a villain, and now he wears it like armor. But it doesn't fit. It never did, because Fern was never evil. He was just trying to matter. And now he matters to people who don't care if he lives or dies. He's been molded into a symbol of rebellion. Not his own rebellion, but someone else's cause, someone else's war. And the vines that once clung to his body, twisting, blooming, reaching for light, have become a cage. Fern no longer grows. He just obeys. But deep down, something in him is still waiting. Not for revenge, not for redemption, but for someone to remind him he's still human. And in the final act of his story, someone does. By the time we reach the series finale, Come Along With Me, Fern is a ghost of who he was, both literally and metaphorically. He enters the final battle as the same weapon, but leaves it as something far more human. When war between Princess Bubblegum and Gumbald seems inevitable, Finn and Jake decide to stop it the only way they know how, with magic, specifically nightmare juice, a psychedelic solution that plunges them, Fern, Gumbald, and PB into a shared hallucination. Not a dream exactly, more like a mirror. And it's here, while untethered from his body, from his orders, from his past, that Fern finally begins to crack open. In the hallucination, Fern transforms into a monstrous bat-like creature and flies away in rage and confusion. But Finn doesn't let him go. He follows him, not with anger, but with understanding. Because Finn now sees what we've known all along. Fern isn't just his rival, he's his reflection. A version of himself that was never allowed to heal. When Finn catches up to him, he doesn't fight. He speaks.
We're two sides of the same coin.
You'll never understand what it's like to be me. I'm tormented!
And Finn listens, if Finn can prove it. The two descend into Finn's vault, a metaphorical space that stores Finn's deepest, most private memories.
See? This is our shared torment!
Fern sees their similarities, and there, waiting in the shadows, is the root of it all. The grass demon. The thing that corrupted Fern's body, that twisted his instincts, that fed off his fear and isolation. And together, Fern and Finn destroy it. But there's a catch. The grass demon was what held Fern together. Without it, his body begins to crumble. Back in the waking world, the war is over, but Fern is dying.
Hey, Finn. I'm not doing so good.
Not in a blaze of glory, not as a villain defeated, but quietly, gently, like a leaf finally letting go of its branch. He tells Finn that he wants to go to the treehouse one final time, but when Fern is unable to make it, he has one final question.
Just promise to plant me there.
A simple request, a final act of belonging. The tree fort was destroyed in the battle. There's nothing left. So Finn does the only thing he can. He buries Fern where the roots used to be. And then something beautiful happens. From Fern's remains, a small green sprout emerges. Not just any sprout, but a seedling in the shape of the Finn sword. It's Fern, reborn. Not as a copy, not as a villain, but as something entirely his own. A tree, a legacy, a sword for someone else to wield someday. Fern was never seen in together again, meaning he's still alive as that tree many years later. He's finally his own to grow into the giant, majestic tree he was always meant to be.